So the GVN story really goes back to 1988, and at the age of 18 I had the opportunity to go to Papua New Guinea. Now my uncle was putting emergency radios in remote villages, and I had the opportunity to go with him and spend time travelling and exploring some pretty amazing places. I remember one day we went to this place. It was down by Lake Kutabu, and the idea is you fly in a small plane, you land in a little dugout strip, and then you had to walk through the jungle for 4 hours. We then went by dugout canoe and made our way across the lake, and we arrived at the village. And I still remember arriving there and seeing what I would call extreme poverty for the first time. I'm talking about, the ginger colour of their hair and the bloated bellies, the real signs of malnutrition. And for me, it was a pretty humbling and difficult experience. But I remember after we'd done the work for the day, and I was down by the lake, and I was picking up little stones and skimming them across the water, and there was ripples coming out on the lake, and I was just thinking at the time that, what can one person do? How can one person make a difference? And then I was looking at that lake and looking at those ripples coming out, and there was just this realization that, wow, if one person can make it splash, then those ripples can have an impact. And if we can make a lot of splashes, then we can have even bigger impact. Then in 1998, I had the opportunity to go to Ghana, which is in West Africa. And I was doing my Masters in International Development. I was focusing on adult literacy, and I had the opportunity to be placed into this tribal village called the Kukumbas. And I still remember to this day arriving in the village and being informed that I had to seek the permission of the chief before I could stay. And for me, I just travelled from New Zealand, which is completely the other side of the world, and I was thinking, wow, I have to actually ask for permission. What if he said no? But I went into this mud hut, and the elders were there and the chief, and I had an interpreter, and the chief said the following thing: if you take a corn seed and you plant it in the ground and you water it, eventually it would germinate and start to grow. And if you were to take a stone and put it on top of the plant, it would go round and round and round and eventually die. But if you were to remove that stone, then the plant will be able to grow and become what was intended. And so I remember thinking, okay, so am I in? The chief smiled and said I could stay. But I've never forgotten that story, because really that's what we do, is we work together with communities to remove stones. One of the experiences I had that really led to the birth of GVN was going into schools. And I remember walking into one school and they had 100 kids per teacher. I then travelled to the next school and they had 150 kids and one teacher. As you can imagine, there wasn't a lot of teaching going on. And I thought, if we could only arrange for some volunteer teachers to go, at least this generation of kids will get an education. And that really got me thinking. And I remember coming back to New Zealand and really exploring, how can I organise for volunteers to go to places like Ghana? So at the end of 2001, GVN was born. It was amazing. People just started applying. In fact, we couldn't keep up with the amount of interest we had in the program. So between 2002 and 2005, we just spent a lot of time adding new programs, travelling the world, visiting projects. And it was a crazy time, but also a really fun time. And that leads to today. 11 years later, we're now working in 18 countries. We've placed over 17,000 volunteers, and we've also raised $2 million to help projects around the world. I'm incredibly grateful to every volunteer who's believed in us and travelled and volunteered in our projects. And I'm really excited about the next 10 years, and I really would love you to be part of that. Thank you.